Big glitch energy. Centralizing joy in peripheral networks. In the tradition of several liberation heroes, our infamous dictator Enver Hoxha In the tradition of several liberation heroes, our infamous dictator Enver Hoxha made use of the historical Albanian habituation of being oppressed and implemented a surreally brutal regime. The bunkerization program was based on guerrilla warfare and intended to protect the isolated state from possibly invading enemies. The megalomaniac construction was a massive drain to Albania's horrific economic situation and remains one of the ubiquitous visual dictatorship debris. Growing up, no local was particularly interested in bunkers, but Albanians know how to do the bizarre. A severe Western obsession has produced tons of press and made miniature bunkers 40 years later the country's best-selling souvenirs. A few weeks ago, while visiting FAM, I stumbled upon this glitch in Blora. When life gives you bunkers, make emojis. Collective joy is powerfully subversive. For those rendered peripheral by history, joy is a political act. When commodifying a fossil of your own oppression is a possibility for you to survive in a globalized society that criminalizes your poverty, you better give it a winking face. The construction of modernity and the sciences of the Industrial Revolution have been inseparable from colonial imperialism and the technologies of race and power. Muhammad Munirul Islam writes, one colonized, now third world subaltern subjects become the strategic object of the discourse, since the posthuman man will require its other, and the otherness will be released in the pre-posthuman subaltern agency. Our race, our class, our gender and sexuality influence and affect the way our identities are performed in physical and virtual spaces. The historical data gaps that hegemonic discourse produced now further threaten the existence of the humanoid subaltern. People that consider themselves anti-fascist artists in Berlin still told me they think the internet comes as imported magic from west to the rest, and are surprised why people in the global south work with me using these internet aesthetics that come from New York. Whether we can free ourselves from the necropolitics of our bodies, not solely online, remains future speculation. My current cheat code is to create new temporal geographic entities of collective joy. Forming and expanding communities of pleasure and within peripheral networks has been a pillar of my artistic research practice and my current mode of collaboration. Previous works have been based on becoming part of the ecology of nail salons in my hometown Tirana. In the process, I am as much a subject of my works as the people working with me. My partial perspective is previous works have been based on becoming part of the ecology of nail salons in my fam's hometown Tirana. In the process, I am as much subject of the works as the people working with me. My partial perspective stroked by theirs. Ours emphasized through visualizing the barriers of translation and the aesthetics of precarious assemblage, while the basis of the work Tools for Conviviality was forming a new team with creative entrepreneurs in Senegal's capital Dakar for the sake of collective research within interviews, hanging out, and improvisation. The recent cycle, Tupamaras Technophallus, started as a conversation with the pre-existing Colombian voguing and performance collective House of Tupamaras. The multidisciplinary work tries to synthesize a new relationship to the iconography of science and technology by gifting it with a queer feminist kink. Consisting of various sculptures, a 360 video installation, lenticular prints, and playing. The multidisciplinary work tries to synthesize a new relationship to the iconography of science and tech by gifting it with a queer feminist kink. The multidisciplinary work tries to synthesize a new relationship to the iconography of science and technology by gifting it with a queer feminist kink. Consisting of various sculptures, a 360 video installation, lenticular prints, and playing.
Welcome to Tupamaras Airlines.
Buenas noches. Tupamaras Airlines les da la bienvenida.
Consisting of various sculptures, a 360 video installation, lenticular prints, and playing cards. Consisting of various sculptures, a 360 video installation, lenticular prints, and playing cards. The work invites us to reflect us on speculative post-gender, decolonial tech, and body politics through the lens of the cunt. The technophallus, the construction of knowledge linked to male generative power.
The science and technology database we have accumulated over the history of modern-day human civilizations is reinstalling currently. Intersecting data variables turned out historical biases hardwired into the code which we outsource our decision-making to. Our current dataset is a data debacle. Many of my peers are resisting the idea, but the universality declaration of our perspective is currently being hacked. Centuries of collective oversight, blunder, mistake, and coincidence spiced up with a tiny bit of evil greedy science fetish for domination starts to fall outside the norms that society codes into the acceptable program. The claim for universality has led to system failure, hardware error.
System failure, hardware error, data crash. System failure, hardware error, data crash. System failure, hardware error.
And fascism is counted in technophallus, the construction of knowledge linked to male generative power and fascism is countered by our momentary celebration. Countered through twerking upon an abandoned airplane in Bogota. Countered through dance and conversation as tools for creating counter-hegemonic knowledge. And contrary to other previous collaborations whose concept emerged in conversation, the initial work, Tupamaras Technophallus, was, on request of the performers, conceptualized and carried out by me. The cycle grows organically, a dynamic process. After I could leave Colombia's draconian lockdown, 3 of the members by sheer luck could travel to Berlin. We orchestrated a performance in public space through a conversational process. The 3 Berlin Tupamaras made a performance with workshop participants under the name Tupamaras Technophallus without me. The ideas of the project circulate into our individual practices. They circulate into the lives of others. Or they grow into physical virtual hybrids, as in the Critical Camgirl Reading Group, a workshop where all the work grows into physical virtual hybrids, as in the Critical Camgirl Reading Group, a workshop where I read about Chile's project Cybersyn with the participants in Zurich. The Bogota Tupamaras performed writings on the anus as a portal for knowledge over Zoom, and the virtual Berlin Tupamaras shared their pixelated knowledge of a post-human peripheral for a collective booty club and made me and the participants twerk in the museum.
Comunica, ¿sí? El cuerpo es un mecanismo, es un dispositivo en el que puedes comunicar muchas cosas.
El cuerpo es un mecanismo.
You know another nigga can handle it. So you shaking that thing like who's the ish? With a look in your eyes so devilish. You like to dance on the hip hop spots. You cruise to the cruise to connect the dots. Not just the fin, she liked the pop. Cause she was living la vida loca. She had dumps like a truck. Thighs like, baby, move your I think I'm singing again. She had dumps like a truck. Thighs like, all night long. Let me see that thong. Baby, that thong. I like it when the beat go. Baby, make it booty go. That thong. That girl's so scandalous. I know another nigga could handle it. And she shaking that thing like who's the ish? With a look in the eyes so devilish. Oh, she like to dance on the hip hop spot. She grew to the cruise and connected that. Not just her bitch, she liked the vibe. Cause she was living la vida loca. That girl's so scandalous. And I know another nigga could handle it. And she shaking that thing like who's the ish? With a look in the eyes so devilish. Oh, she like to dance on the hip hop spot. She grew to the cruise and connected that. Not just her bitch, she liked the vibe. Cause she was living la vida loca. That